we've got a problem. These individuals, and statistically speaking, you too, have dealt with this at some point in your life. Trauma. And while 223.4 million people having trauma is a big problem, it's not the biggest. It's how we're dealing with it. Hey there, neighbors. Let's get the easy shit out of the way first. What is trauma dumping? More specifically, it's unsolicited, one-sided sharing of traumatic or intensely negative experiences or emotions I think you got him. Never mind. He needs a few more hits. Or emotions in an inappropriate setting or with people who are unprepared for the interaction. But I'd like to separate the definition even more. Trauma gains and the candy effect. As far as I know, these terms haven't even been defined yet, so I'm like the Sacagawea of 21st century. Continuing on. So I'm like the Sacagawea of 21st century made-up phrases. Not the baby, the long hair, not a woman. You know what it is? I'm like the Benny of 21st century made-up phrases. So now we know what. But why? Why unload all of this trauma onto an unsuspecting person? In simplest terms, connection. The act of trauma dumping is public. You want people to know and interact with you in some way. But here's the thing, it differs. Trauma gains, as far as I know, if this is you, you're an asshole. It's basically using your own trauma to emotionally manipulate someone or someone's for your own profit, usually monetarily. And for me, that's just slimy. If you need any more incentive to avoid this type of behavior, other than not wanting to be labeled as an asshole, then look no further than Madison Russo. Oh, a mugshot. Uh-oh. Yeah, she made post to TikTok, made a GoFundMe to help raise money to battle her alleged cancer. Did pretty well too. Raised over $37,000 from over 400 people. And she must have contracted said cancer while crossing the Rainbow Bridge to fight the alligator penguin bear, Frutonius. Because yeah, of course she was full of shit. She got caught back in January of 2023 because her story wasn't matching up. And luckily, all the money was returned, plus a little extra, and she'll most likely avoid her time behind bars as long as she keeps her hands clean. Metaphorically, because she literally has 100 hours of community service. She was also denied to wipe the conviction clean by Judge John Tellen. You're a king. As he stated, people who deal with her in the future should know that she once engaged in criminal scheme, and that serious crimes must have serious consequences. Now there's a bit of a hiccup. She's trying to put a damper on my whole trauma gains theory. As she explained, I didn't do this for money or greed. I didn't do this for attention. I did this as an attempt to get my family back together. What the hell are you talking about? Didn't do this for attention. The thousands of dollars in views you collected would beg to differ. Seriously, what's our exit strategy here, Madison? Best case scenario. Best case, you've collected the money, you're in the hospital, you've managed to have your family squash whatever they're going through, and now all of their attention is focused on you, the woman with rampaging pancreatic cancer.
Good afternoon, Ms. Russo. Sorry to keep you waiting. We're gonna get started on your first round of chemotherapy here in a little bit. First things first, how are you feeling?
You know what? I'm actually feeling 100% better. I could probably go home.
A lot of our patients experience that. They get this big boost of energy because they're nervous and they're excited, but we should really get started pretty quick because we got a long way to go.
I just remembered the newest episode of Love Island is actually coming on today. So I should probably...
Well, no, we've got a TV right here. We can put it on for you to watch. We should really get started.
Doctor, you know what? You were such a forward-thinking man, but I've got this whole routine, and I've got slippers and this robe with microfibers and cashmere, and it's a whole thing.
I mean, we can just send someone to get that for you. It's not a big deal at all.
There's this whole lock combination thing, and it would just be faster if I do it. You just stay there. I'll be right back. Don't move.
I'm sorry, I'm just having a hard time believing you collected $37,000 intentionally misleading people and you have no other ulterior motives? Why collect the money then? What are we planning on doing with it? Buying back our family dynamic? Before we continue, I am issuing a trigger warning right now. The stories and topics we are covering are extremely heavy. People trying to unalive themselves, self-harm, being SA'd, you've been warned. Now, these types of circumstances aren't always cut and dry. Sometimes people are craftier, sneakier with their trauma gains, like profiting off the dead.
So this woman pulls up to a Starbucks drive-thru and she starts trauma dumping on the barista.
Today is National Day of Remembrance for homicide victims, and my husband was brutally killed.
And then she starts crying, making the whole thing uncomfortable to watch.
Ryan and many others have done a great job breaking down this woman and her story. But for anyone else that has literally anything else better to do, this is Lisa Mia, harpist, author, and trauma dumper of people working minimum wage jobs just trying to clock out at 6. But she pays it forward So it's okay, right? There's a lot to unpack here. Let's just knock out the highlights. She went viral for trauma dumping to this barista at Starbucks. People looked into her history, and people realized she was doing this constantly at the beginning of her videos, referencing her husband who had died tragically. The internet did its thing. Turns out, he wasn't her husband. However, that hasn't stopped her from referring to him as her husband. And it turns out she had a book coming out regarding her journey to unalive herself before she was saved by this not sure what we are man, Rob. First things first, I do not want to crucify this woman. If what reads in her bio is correct, she has experienced a lot. Not to mention, regardless of what they were to one another, this man Rob was real. They had some kind of connection, and he did die in a gruesome way. So I can understand the anguish and personal battle. But my tolerance only goes so far. For one, if you know this man is not your husband, why are you starting every video with my husband? Why not friend or fiance? Well, what sounds better to you? I'm having my first kid. I'm having my second kid. We just got engaged. We just got married. I just ran a half marathon. I just ran a marathon. Calm down. Calm down. Yes, Michael. Yes, we're very proud of you, Michael. I know you had to train very hard. And yeah, you had to buy those shoes. I get it. This is all to say that there are certain types of life experiences and accomplishments that, while exciting, don't always hold the same aura in comparison to other versions of the same-ish experiences. So people have a better sense of relatability if you say my husband rather than my friend or fiance. With my husband, y'all could have been married 4, 5, 50 years. With fiance, hell, there are TV show couples that might have been together longer than y'all have. Run, Rose, run! For me, I'm gonna say it. I feel like it's a tactic to better connect with people. But it doesn't end there. Does it? When doing preliminary research into trauma dumping in general, Lisa came up a lot. And the false claims of her husband, not husband, was weird, but what was unnerving was her crying. Specifically when Lisa was interacting with people or fans of hers and like bearing their soul, digging in and revealing their trauma that they had gone through or were going through. I mean, people cry how they cry. Take me. End of season 3, Elle reading Hopper's letter. I'm toast. I'm done. I need 5 minutes to respawn. But you know what I can't do when I'm Daphne and Celeste levels of ugly crying? Just stop. Immediately. And vice versa. So Lisa's crying. Is it normal? The American Psychological Association published a wonderful piece called Crocodile Tears, Facial, Verbal, and Body Language Behavior Associated with Genuine and Fabricated Remorse. It involves attendees and colleagues of the Center for Advancement of Psychology and Law, University of British Columbia, and the Memorial University of Newfoundland in Canada. They dissected over 300,000 frames of videotape that involved individuals who had committed some form of misconduct with either genuine or fabricated remorse. In the analysis, the students grouped the various emotions displayed into 3 categories: positive, negative, and neutral. They uncovered that truly remorseful people don't swing wildly from positive to negative emotions. They have a quick pit stop through the neutral phase before continuing on to one extreme or the other. In contrast, those who were being deceitful did show a direct shift from positive to negative with fewer displays of neutral emotions in between. Not only that, but these furry caterpillars and this inspiration for a superhero cartoon also have their own telltale signs. Faking It, Tears of a Crime is a Discovery Channel documentary series that involves a team of psychologists and body language experts who review iconic and infamous criminal cases. They specifically look into the perpetrators who, at the time of the crime, bars, were the ones claiming innocence, simply grieving as concerned citizens. In this example, I'd like to focus on a specific episode in the show, namely the one that centers around Ian Huntley. He was convicted in 2003, sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 40 years, after he was found guilty of kidnap and murder of 2 10-year-old girls, Jessica Chapman and Holly Wells. I want you to listen to the body language expert, Cliff Langley. You see, Huntley was being interviewed in this kind of recap of what we know so far, and his testimonial was pivotal as he was the last one to see the girls alive. Imagine that.
He's also trying to pose an expression of sadness or concern with his eyebrows. And we know it's a pose because there's a symmetry. The eyebrows aren't level. His right eyebrow is 2-3 millimeters higher than his left. This is what happens when you try and fake concern. Genuine sadness is shown with symmetrical eyebrows.
Hear that? Genuine sadness is when both eyebrows are level. A slightly raised right eyebrow, even a few millimeters, is when you show fake concern. Well, that's just a side view. I'll be honest, I actually had to cut that previous clip shorter than I intended. You see, the beginning of it would have been a little bit more confusing because Cliff is talking more so about the case than the actual body language of Huntley. So now I have this awkward segue. But this is where I wanted to start. See, just below Cliff's name and his profession, well, those are his credentials. And oh, hello, article from the same source. Did you know that there are 43 muscles in the face? And they can combine to produce around 10,000 facial expressions, including this face, which happens when you tell a child or adult to express sadness. See, if the logic we referenced before regarding eyebrows was applied here, we'd be screwed. I mean, look at those evenly bewildered brows. This child is surely grief-stricken, but alas, betrayed by the chin. If only they were built like Ed. No, not that Ed. Yes, that Ed. But also the other Ed too. Rose, keep running. You see, true sadness incorporates the lip corners as they pull the outer corners of the lips down, meaning the chin has very little contribution at all and is more of a set piece, like Scrappy-Doo or Jar Jar Binks. Don't come for me, Star Wars stans. I'm a big fan too, and Ahmed Best did not deserve the amount of hate he got from that role. But I will say I watched the 3-parter like 2 months ago. It's rough. Like I said, chin don't move, corners do. So when I see this, you know, I didn't even want to do this. I just wanted to showcase some shitty examples of trauma dumping behavior and then move on to the next topic. And I'm not calling Lisa's acting, let's call it, to be on the same level of heinousness as a convicted murder deceiving the public. Because I don't know, man, like this, it just bothers me because it's all about people's empathy. If I'm sad, but I'm not, oh my God, the world is ending type levels of sad as someone is bearing their soul to me, then the person or persons watching may not have the same level of connection with me than in contrast if I'm sobbing so hard and I'm unable to put sentences together. Because if I can show them their story is breaking me, I'm crying, I'm shitting and sobbing all over the place, I'm inconsolable, then that will hit people a lot harder. They'll see it on their phone and they'll go, oh my God, I feel that, I connect with that. And oh, they have a book too, and oh, they're an author. I want to support that. I want to be more ingratiated in that person's life. And this isn't circumstantial. People are actively buying her books. They're commenting on her posts. Can't wait to read your story, waiting on my next paycheck to clear so I can buy it and start my journey. It's simultaneously inspiring and heartbreaking because reading all those comments, besides the people that are just horny for paperback, have experienced real pain. And this lady, she genuinely seems like she wants to connect. She allegedly sends them nice messages, even posting some of their comments with inspirational videos playing in the background, like a hermit crab traversing a rock face. I don't know. But people can and do connect with her. What's frustrating is you don't need all this extra bullshit. Don't feign sadness. You can comfort someone, pay it forward, be an inspiration to your audience without contorting your face to look sadder, and close your eyes really tight and then cut to then show that you've squeaked out a tear with your book always ever present, front and center, or just out of frame, reference in the description or in big ass font. It's all just so unnecessary. If what reads in her bio is correct, she's gone through plenty to have an audience. Her experience alone will bring support her way. And they won't care if it's your husband or your fiance or your friend or whatever, because they'll be there for you. If you're listening to their story, stop forcing it. Just have a normal face, but be interested. Be real. There are plenty of people out there that have experienced terrible tragedies and trauma, and they have found a way to showcase and express themselves through art, writing, dance, whatever, without the need to lie or over-exaggerate their emotions or bend the truth. Because here's the thing, she may be sad, genuinely, but when you lie and over-exaggerate and people find out like they are, you ruin it for the others who are also hurting, who need support, who are trying to find an outlet for their own personal trauma without having to squeeze every single ounce of empathy out of people so we can clear the bookshelves at the local Barnes & Noble. You may think I'm over-exaggerating, and you're well within your right, but trust me, one person can ruin it for the rest. Why do you think stories like The Boy Who Cried Wolf exist? This is all speculation, of course. I'm not a psychologist or a body language expert. I'm just a cow. Who am I to say she can't flip back and forth between positive and negative emotions on a dime? Or that her facial expressions naturally contradict human behavior of someone that's genuinely upset? It would be ridiculous to make false claims on someone's body language and lying alone, and I would never do something like that. Okay, let's talk about something more light.
I'm Riley, and my dad beat my mom when she was pregnant with me.
Oh, no. The candy effect, as we're aptly going to call it, is more for personal satisfaction. We've all heard that talking about our feelings and our problems and getting whatever's off our chest can help alleviate stress and calm ourselves. However, I view this type of dump and run strategy a little bit fleeting, kind of like eating a piece of candy and giving your brain a quick surge of dopamine. Satisfying in the moment, but inevitably will fade. A version of this type of trauma dumping is something I've peppered throughout this video, including like 30 seconds ago, the candy salad. The uninitiated asking, what's a candy salad? They're mini Oreos, that doesn't count as candy. Shut up. The internet. Woo! There are debates on the origins. Some say it's this TikTok couple. Some say they first heard about it when the beloved Ander Dingus came on the scene. Me personally, I'm an outlier. My money's on the ancient Egyptians. Regardless, it's a lot of fun. People laugh, cheer, applaud, while basically making the equivalent of a diabetic's last meal. But as of late, people have been adding something extra to these billion-calorie bowls. Terrible, mentally crippling trauma with a side of nerds rope. I can't tell you where the trend started from, but it blew up. Hundreds of videos of people telling their personal stories of some of the most heinous, terrible, tragic, upsetting stories I've ever heard. Now, before I start, I want to be careful because I get it. I say that because majority of the people in this trend are Gen Z. And talk about getting dealt a hand, man. Their most precious years of life stolen by a global pandemic. Basically taking all normalcy of their lives, both educationally and socially. And yet they're still one of the most emotionally intelligent generations we've got. I say that as a blessing and a curse. A lot of times you can get a good vibe for a generation based off of who they uphold and make famous. Especially in this day and age where literally anyone can just take off. Case in point, Emma Chamberlain. She started recording when she was like, what, 15, 16? And she is prime Gen Z. And her popularity skyrocketed almost immediately. And there's a host of reasons of why she climbed the ladder so quick, but one of them is most certainly her vulnerability. Her willingness to divulge so much on the internet. It was comforting and she was relatable. People gravitated towards her personality, sure, but her willingness to be so open, it was inviting for others. Her audience felt and feels seen, connecting to these various emotions. The trauma and pressure we feel in this world, it influenced them. And not just her and her fans, a lot of people. And if someone's existence makes you feel good about yourself, makes you feel happy, then you're going to want to mimic their behavior to also help those in need who might be feeling bad about themselves, who might be unhappy. So it makes sense to me why there's so many different versions of oversharing and trauma dumping that's coming out of all places. The candy salad, the fingers down trend, showing yourself sobbing uncontrollably as you're dealing with some kind of terrible life event. Of course, it's not just Gen Z, but they make up a majority of it. They're in tune with their emotions and have a willingness to put it all out there for everybody to see. They've been raised in a world where they not only see their peers finding success being incredibly emotionally vulnerable, but they've lived in a world where they've been closed off from everyone and everything. So it makes sense to share your experiences and your feelings regardless of the severity of them. Surely someone is feeling this way and can connect and relate to this trauma. And as great as that can be, I can't help but think of
It's not like Conrad not to come home. Then they found his body and around 5:30 in the afternoon.
Conrad Roy III died by unaliving himself, specifically by carbon monoxide poisoning from the fumes of his truck. However, while cause of death was because he unalived himself, the main culprit was his girlfriend at the time, Michelle Carter.
Medical examiner found that it was a suicide. It wasn't until they started looking at his phone that they realized that there was something else going on here. Because on that phone were hundreds and hundreds of texts from Michelle Carter to Conrad Roy, urging him to end his life.
Being a person is overwhelming. Being a teen is hell. We hold our family close, but our friends, people our age, our peers, I mean, they know what it's really like. We understand each other effortlessly. What we say to each other holds weight, significant weight. So imagine feeling lost and empty at that age. You may, and hopefully would, turn to your family. But in a lot of these cases that involve stress and feeling alone and depressed, you're gonna turn to your friends. And in this case, Conrad turning to his girlfriend, Michelle. But not everybody is equipped to handle that shit. Michelle sure wasn't. Beyond that, I don't know. Maybe what started as harmless venting morphed into something more consistent and endless, then shifting into trauma dumping and oversharing, and it just became too much. The conversations becoming grating and emotionally draining. But for whatever reason, the loving, supportive, helpful text started to shift as they became vile, filled with a sense of resentment, doubt, and belittling. And when you feel the way you do, and support is no longer being received, not from friends, family, now not even your significant other, what's left to do when you're pushed by the very person you're in love with, except to just go to a quiet parking lot or something? This is what I fear. If someone like that is willing to turn on you in a personal and private setting, imagine broadcasting it across the internet for everyone to see. That includes people that not only don't give a shit about you, but are gonna make you feel bad for showcasing your feelings in the first place. If you've posted to social media ever, and the ability for someone to comment is enabled, you know that the good ones that you read are great, and the bad ones stick. A lot of the rebuttal regarding Michelle's behavior was, oh, she's young and impressionable. She doesn't understand the severity of her actions. Well, if that's the case, who do you think is commenting on these people that are trauma dumping? How old do you think they are? Hell, I've seen adults make asses of themselves when they know they're anonymous. Look, I'm not trying to play trauma trend lifeguard. If you've got it, you got it. You went to therapy, or at least completely came to terms with everything you've experienced. Okay. You're okay with people knowing intimate knowledge about you, and at any moment can use it against you, to hurt you, to cyberbully you, to take advantage of you. Okay. And as long as you're sure whoever you're talking about in these trauma dumping stories can't hurt you or get to you, doesn't have any guardianship or responsibility over you to make your life a living hell, okay. I mean, I wouldn't. And with some of these stories, y'all need to go to the police. The point is, I can't stop you. I'm just sitting in this video. Just be careful. People are twisted and scary. And yes, many are wonderful and great, but it only takes one bad one to fuck it up. Maybe you're going, hey man, it's my trauma, my story. I can do and say what I want with it. It's not like it's hurting anybody else. Secondary trauma, or compassion fatigue, occurs when someone is significantly impacted by someone else's trauma. Typically what happens is that over time, any person who's listening to something traumatic constantly starts to be mentally and emotionally affected by it in a negative way. Symptoms like intrusive thoughts, anxiety, depression, physical exhaustion, and anger can all develop over a prolonged amount of exposure, as someone is constantly being engulfed in another's trauma. And yeah, this condition mostly affects people that are in the industry, where you're constantly thinking about the trauma or you're involved in it. So professionals like nurses, social workers, and therapists are at the highest risk. However, don't think for one second that your everyday teen or adult can't be affected either. A survey came out in 2022, taking young adults between the ages of 19 to 24, and found that 42% were diagnosed with a mental health condition, the four most common being anxiety, depression, ADHD, and post-traumatic stress disorder. What? The APA, hello again old friend, came out with a report regarding the different generations. It focused on the percentage of people that viewed their mental health as fair or poor. Gen Z was 27%, Millennials 15%, Gen X 13%. That was us just hitting turbulence. We're about to lose cabin pressure. The CDC came out with a full data report that covers between 2011 and 2021. For Gen Zers in high school, 29% experience poor mental health, 42% have persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness, 22% have considered unaliving themselves, 18% have an unalive plan, and 10% have attempted unaliving themselves. I think it's difficult and hard when we're looking at these percentages and these numbers to attribute them to real people. But we have to be careful, because you know what? They are real, and there are real consequences. I'm not telling you to stop venting or oversharing or even trauma dumping. Well, maybe trauma dumping. We'll put a little asterisk by it. Just realize that not everybody is ready to hear that information. And unfortunately, there are no parameters to warn someone before they start watching. Maybe psychopaths are out here pausing and reading the description before the video starts, but I'm not, and I'm pretty sure you're not either. The purpose of these platforms is to keep you on the platform. So if you're watching full clips and videos of relentless amounts of trauma dumping, what do you think the algorithm's gonna do? It doesn't know what you're going through. It just knows that you're not leaving. Let's keep feeding you the same so that you stay. And I gotta add this as a little caveat to the secondary trauma. Just so you know, the average amount that people spend on social media globally in 2024 is 143 minutes. Yes, you're correct. The year's not over yet. 2 hours and some change for the whole day? I'm picking that up before my ass hits the door for work in the morning. I think it's fair to say that given that so many people are in a terrible mindset, there's no framework for what we can and can't see. Anything you watch enough of is going to be systematically peddled to you even more. And the amount of time we spend consuming this material is damn near a second job. I think it's a real danger to hit send, publish, or post, even if it's a funny little trend for you. For better or for worse, these things are damn near a part of us. And statistically speaking, 64% of you are watching me through this anyway. Just think, is there a way I can express and unload this feeling without potentially hurting someone else? Once the thing we create is sent out into the world, we have very little control over who sees it and how they react or feel. Of course, it's important to share and talk about our feelings to the people around us. Just make sure they're ready for it and willing to hear it. And if not, please reconsider, or at the very least, reevaluate how you can still get what you want without giving it to someone that doesn't. So yeah, just a few reasons why you shouldn't trauma dump. That being said, if you must get your fix and get a hit of that sweet, sweet trauma dumping dopamine, there are plenty of ways to do it safely, kind of. Or at least more discreetly or anonymously, and also allows people to know what they're getting into. Reddit's nice, although enter at your own risk. Some of those personal trauma stories will challenge your faith in humanity. But if you want to post to a platform where you can basically be as anonymous as you'd like, people know the topic they're getting into and aren't getting blindsided, and also where you can hear similar or identical stories to yours that can fulfill that desire of wanting to feel heard and seen, look no further. YouTube, of course, I mean, you clicked, right? You know what's going on here. So it's understanding we're going to cover some triggering I wish I could promote Instagram and TikTok, but they don't care. Like I said, It's all about keeping you on the platform. And creators, their hands are somewhat tied. I mean, yeah, you could put a disclaimer at the beginning of your post, but you've got what, 3 seconds max to hook someone? Because if not, so what are you gonna do? Waste 1 or 3 precious seconds? Or hook them right away with whatever horrible things happen to you? And yeah, I know about TikTok's sensitive content warning with the pitch black screen and the small text. Doesn't give you even a general sense of what the topic is, but instead creates a force field of impenetrability with a skip video or watch anyway. Dangling a carrot in front of you like small children of famous YouTubers. Seriously, y'all, stop. So realistically, there's no real change that's going to come. Now this should go without being said, but trauma dumping isn't therapy. Many know this, but I'm worried some don't. The feeling of relief and depletion of stress is real when you share your trauma. However, it's not resolved. That's like putting a SpongeBob Band-Aid over a gunshot wound. It ain't doing shit. Go to therapy. If you can afford it. Or journal, talk to somebody you can trust that's not an asshole. Use apps like Meetup. It's not just for finding your local stuffed platypus enthusiast. They've got a lot of groups out there, big groups that are willing to help you through depression, anxiety, trauma, whatever. When you're thinking about, ooh, I want to share this or tell this story, take a moment and imagine it in a real life scenario without the screens.
Hey,
Hey,
how's it going?
it's fine. Just getting some coffee.
Whoa, cool. What kind?
What kind?
Black? Black?
Yeah. Oh, okay. What?
My dog was named Black and we just lost him. It was terrible. He had this allergic reaction to pumpkin seeds and he couldn't stop shitting. And it must have been the seeds because I had some pumpkin seeds and when we were on the way to a veterinarian clinic, I started shitting in the car all over the place in my pants. It was disgusting. It was awful. The smell was terrible. Hey, wait, where are you going?
No, I'm gonna go. I think I should go.
But what about your black coffee?
I'm just feeling a bit sick actually.
Sick?
Yeah, just a little bit sick, but it's okay.
That reminds me of my cat, Sicko Mode. She was so small, just a kid, and she was just curious looking at the porta potties, and she just went in, and you know how cats are. And then all of a sudden, she just dropped in, and I couldn't find her in enough time.
Not everybody is going to be okay with what you may be ready to talk about. And unfortunately, some people don't always have the ability to opt out. Beyond that, I'd love to hear your thoughts regarding trauma dumping. And if you've got any helpful resources for someone that's trying to work on their trauma, please leave it in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like on your way out, and subscribe if you want to be a part of the neighborhood. Got a last-minute cookout on this coming Wednesday. I've got the food this time. Just bring yourself, a few scraps of paper, a pen, and some tissues. As always, take your time, take a breath, take care. Okay? Bye! You know what's annoying? It's not that bad. This bug, dude, I swear to God. I'm on your ass.